Proceed with the countdown.
10,
9,
8,
7,
6,
5,
4, 3,
2, 1, 0.
Today we're teaching poodles how to fly. Come here, Foofy. Foofy, are you psyched? Are you ready? Okay, here we go. Get ready and fly! Oh, man.
Boy, do I have a surprise for you.
Keep this thing going. Pick a name. Go on the air. Talk hard.
Doesn't this blend of blindness and blandness want to make you do something crazy?
Talk hard. Spill your guts out. It's your life. Take charge of it. Do it.
Try it. Try anything.
Talk hard.
Why not do something crazy?
Talk hard. Keep this thing going. Pick a name. Go on the air. Talk hard.
Doesn't this blend of blindness and blandness want to make you do something crazy?
Talk hard. Spill your guts out. It's your life. Take charge of it. Do it.
Try it. Try anything.
Talk hard.
Well, greetings and salutations, everyone. I hope everybody's doing well out there. Welcome to Talk Hard. Let's do it. We're going to talk about Cloak and Dagger, 1984. I mean, talk about a nostalgia film, going back to some OG stuff. And I told the guys before we started, I said, I don't think I watched this since I was a kid. So, Loki, I think you said the same thing. This is going to be an interesting one for us tonight.
Do it. Do it now. Watch the movie now.
So with me as always, these wonderful co-hosts here. To my left, Stone _ Loki himself, host of Mornings and Mischief. How are you, my brother?
I'm doing all right. I got to eat a cookie. Put the cookie down. That's what I kept hearing the whole time. I was like, cookie, nom, nom, nom. So I'm doing good. I'm all hyped up. Full of sugar, baby. Yeah.
He's allowed to have a cookie, man. Who knows what kind of wild, crazy stuff he's going to have saying tonight. So down below, the man's rock solid. Let's hear from IRONCASTER. How you doing, brother?
Do I get a cookie?
Not yet. We'll have to mail it to you. We'll see.
Put the cookie down.
Yeah, how come I didn't get a cookie? Why didn't anyone email me about this? I didn't realize we were having cookie day.
Yeah, so Loki's got a dietary permission to have this giant cookie, and I'm like, and when you said that, Loki, I thought to myself, oh man, I want sweets so bad, and I forgot I had bought like a Carb Smart type ice cream, and it's in my the freezer at work, and I totally forgot about it. Like I could have had some ice cream before we did this. Like, oh man! All right, here we go. So I need some sugar still. So. With us out there, Jacob Ironside, brother. Oh, man, so awesome to see you, man. Thanks for hanging out with us tonight. Yeah, Talk Hard, Fight for User, Bob Ross. Yes, dropping those emojis. Yes, be a member, man, so you can drop those emojis. Hail to those whose talk is hard and chat. All right, Steven Ransom's in the house. Let's do it. And
they talk hard. I hardly talk.
That is not true. That is so not true. And by the way, I made a little allusion here to Jacob Ironside. He's on a panel tonight with an incredible panel with Copa, Catania, I think Cannoli, Steven Ransom, Magitech Mag. They're going to talk about Alfred Hitchcock's Rear Window. Truly one of the GOATs, one of the great films. So if you're going to head over there about 8:00 Eastern time. So Old Gamer is here. He's doing great. Saying that he loves this movie. So, man, should have had you come up in here, Old Gamer. You could school us a little bit on some of this, that kind of stuff. So, yeah, with you, man. Yeah, I dropped off one time in the green room. As many of you know, I'm still battling some internet issues from time to time. Almost pulled the trigger on a computer. Didn't quite work out, but we are getting closer and closer. So, another great brother in all of this, man. What a journey. Chris Persia, the mod of mods, the GOAT mod himself, taking care of the Pop-O-Matics and the Pops verse. Thank you, Chris, my brother. Running things. Appreciate you so much. And yes, he's dropping the emojis. Fight for the user. Got our Tron, talk hard, and of course Ash going groovy. Yes, that's Dempsey's favorite. Dempsey's been dropping groovy on a lot of my videos, which I love very, very much. So, okay, so let's talk about Cloak and Dagger for a minute, because I did not. I would have been about 13 when I saw this. I remember seeing this in a theater. We were able to go to this dollar theater in South Tampa. It was Twin Bays, I believe is what it was called. And it was like a dollar theater. I remember that every now and again, my grandmother would take us. I always joked, because I don't know about you guys, we would sneak food in, and we were like the poor kids that would like, you would hear like the soda can pop, that kind of thing. We're eating like fried chicken that were wrapped in foil. Like, we're those kind of people. Like, it was that bad. So, but yeah, though, we got to go see Cloak and Dagger. And I remember seeing Dabney Coleman up there rocking with the ET kid. That's what he was at the time, is the ET kid. And, yeah, had a good time with it. So, Ironcaster, let me start with you, buddy. Where are you at? Is this the first time you've seen this movie? Are you familiar with this?
This is one I think I might have seen at some point over the years. It's just like how, like, little pieces of it you kind of pick up here or there. Like, I remember seeing the scene where he's in the phone booth, about to be run over by the van.
Okay. All right. Yeah. No, I remembered a lot of this movie on the rewatch, even though, like I said, I do not remember owning it. Well, first of all, I verified I don't own it. And then I tried to play certain, no, I can't remember watching it in college or anything like that. So, Chris Berger, by the way, so for those of you who don't know, some of you have been amazing. This person sent it to me kind of like on an anonymous thing. I have a whole bunch of these random, I guess they're AI avatars that are pulled from some of my other photos. So I think they ripped photos from my Facebook universe and stuff like that and did them. So this one, yeah, this is my Jor-El. Chris asked if it's from Kingdom Come. Hey, I'll take Kingdom Come. I looked at it as more like it could be almost like, I feel like I could be in charge of like Game of Thrones. I could be up in the north. I could do that in this one. So yeah, this one's very
Bob's
universal.
Old Man Winter.
I am Old Man Winter. I'm in there preparing for the creatures from the north. So Captain Fandom Nerd, hey brother, hope you're doing well, man. Also a member now. So drop those emojis. Have some fun with us tonight. Yeah, Jacob's we've talked about this kind of stuff on his green rooms. I get Mountain Dew up the pant leg. Yeah, you're sneaking in food, you're sneaking in drinks. Yeah, people do crazy things. It's okay. So Loki, talk a little bit about your childhood memory as well, because you said you saw this when you were a kid. So what do you have sort of associated with the old Cloak and Dagger Dabney Coleman memory?
All right, so right off the bat, his dad looks just like my dad did. And who was also a pilot. So his dad's a pilot and my dad was a pilot. He looks just like my dad. It's the mustache. It's that, it's that 80s, early 80s, late 70s porn stash that all the men had that were in the military, and the way he talks to them too. So I would have been like 4 or 5 when this came out. And I remember I do not think we went and saw it in the theater, but I'm 99% certain that we had it on VHS. So it was one of those movies that I watched over and over and over and over and over again.
Yeah, I'm with you there. Yeah. So I remember seeing it in the theater. We had to have rented it and watched it, because back then you could rent, we were renting multiple things and watching them over the course of a couple days. So Old Gamer is giving us a little heads up here on how this kind of went down for him. Dad rented the VCR in a travel case. So yeah, so if you rented a VCR, maybe Ironcaster, you get a window, you can find one of those like the VHS VCR rental boxes. So it looked like a suitcase. And then yeah, it was crazy. So had to be a big deal to get a chance to not only rent it and be able to watch some movies, to pick something that could be fun like this and really tap into a kid's imagination. Because, Loki, you didn't touch on it, but for me, that was the one thing on my rewatch was, this was like, yeah. It's like, so it's just like a suitcase looking thing. Let's make that kind of big. Because this thing's, you talk about how far we've come. We now have a file that can be messaged from one state to another state and watched on a computer or on my phone in my pocket. And this is what you had to go and put down this massive deposit for, so you could take this thing home to watch VHS. It was crazy. These things are huge. So
they did that with game systems too back in the day. They did that with all kinds of, you could rent PlayStations and Segas and Sega 32X and all that stuff. If you couldn't buy it, you could rent it.
Yeah, that's crazy. I can imagine what would the deposit had to have been on a game station back then, though. Like, that's crazy. Yeah,
it was. I believe it was like $50. You didn't have to pay for the whole thing, but you had to have rental history. You couldn't just go in, open an account, get one.
Right.
And,
okay.
Yeah.
Okay, that makes sense. Yeah. Yeah. Look, cheese here dropping the Jack Flack. Yeah, Jack Flack, baby, Jack Flack. So, let's see. Yeah, Blockbusters had them. Yeah, Chris has talking about it too. Blockbusters would rent them out. Better day. Yeah. It was. Oh, look at that. Yeah, that's one in hand. Yeah. There you go. I won't say better, Stephen. I mean, because I think the tech, there is some beauty in the tech of how nice and it is wonderful to have all this. But I also think there is a nostalgia element that we've lost. I think both can be true at the same time. As again, I'd love to have Pops First become an actual brick and mortar type store / streaming facility to kind of have like a little hybrid of this kind of stuff. But yeah, that's just me. It's just who I am. So, all right. So let's talk about the movie a little bit, because I don't know that I had sort of like an opinion of the movie, Loki, when you dropped this as a suggestion. I thought, oh, okay, that's a sweet, nice, fun little film to watch. That'd be kind of fun. And then as I rewatched it, I want to share my real feelings at the end, but I wanted your thoughts on how and why did this one pop into your mind as one we should watch?
Okay, so back in the 80s, in the mid 80s, you had 3 movies that centered around video games. You had Tron, you had Cloak and Dagger, and my personal favorite, The Last Starfighter. So you had 3 wonderful 80s movies that were all about video games. It all starts out with video games. They incorporated it. Atari was actually made an arcade game, the Cloak and Dagger arcade game. What you see in this movie is the Cloak and Dagger arcade game. Atari was working on a cartridge, but they never finished it. I don't know if they didn't think it would sell after the movie. This was originally like a double feature along with Last Starfighter. So it's a classic era of 80s films where they tried to incorporate video games into a movie.
Yeah. And very much so. Like, I mean, literally, like it's an Atari cartridge. Like, it really is very on point. So there it is. There's a stand-up arcade game. Ironcaster's throwing it down tonight, baby.
And that's Jack Flack. That's Jack Flack.
Right there on the side, baby. Yeah.
I don't remember a little bit of the Green Hornet.
It was more just oh yeah, definitely on that art, because the art's got the mask on too. Huh. Okay. I don't really remember this stand-up console unit. Not saying it wasn't common or anything like that. I just don't remember it.
Well, the other part of why this probably didn't actually get the physical release was the video game crash of 1983.
Yeah, that would definitely have been a contributor to it. They definitely were working on it. It was called Agent X, and then of course it morphed into Cloak and Dagger. So that's about the extent of my knowledge.
Actually,
on all of that.
You missed one, by the way, Loki.
I was going to get to it. Yeah, hit Claude, and then Cheese pointed out War Games.
Yeah.
Well, I was also going to mention The Wizard.
Oh, the Nintendo one.
Yeah.
Yes.
The Nintendo one. Super Mario Brothers 3. Yeah, crazy announcer.
Hey, little boy.
Yeah, I always
come on up.
Yeah, and play.
Okay, so we have to do a special stream on War Games. I don't know I was thinking about throwing down for some of these certain kinds of movies. I think we need to find the expert to bring in as the guest for that stream. You know, we're going to bring Troy Pacelli in for D&D night or something like that. So it'd be kind of fun to find a creator. I really prefer to find creators that are kind of still up and coming. So maybe we could think of a creator that's still up and coming that could be in a great number 4 for something like War Games, because this is a movie that, I mean, obviously this is kind of before your guys' time, because it would have been, you know, early 80s. I, as a kid, was just blown away. Now, I never even got into like software coding and stuff like that. I don't know why. I was good at math and science. It would have been an easy thing. I picked up very generic stuff. I had no problem taking those classes. Those were the easy A's for me. I remember doing calculus in my computer classes, like we're learning, you know, COBOS and all this other stuff. Like it was all fine. But War Games are the first time we're hearing terms like hacker, and we're hearing some of these different kinds of things. Yeah, blown away. Love that movie. Love it. So, and look at Joker voice in the house. Good to see you, brother. Hope you're doing well. Rocking and rolling, baby. Yeah. Joker, we were talking about that. We both kind of had like some vague memories. Ironcaster seemed a little bit more specific than we did. That kind of thing. So, Ironcaster, take us through the first phase of the movie, which is this sort of like opening sequence of, you know, Flack basically being Flack. And by the way, I love the flag special effect. Like that was really fun.
Yeah, it's not obvious at first, but we're starting out with effectively kind of getting into the world of games with Davey, where he's playing as his character of Jack Flack from their Cloak and Dagger game, and he's, you know, going and doing his mission to go and collect some top secret plans, which, you know, all goes well. You're getting to see all these little elements of the tabletop RPG that they're playing with it. How Davey with Jack, he's got everything figured out, and you even hear like the guy who runs the game store, like, even he can't beat this kid. Like the kid like eats, breathes, and sleeps games like this. This is his element.
Yeah, I agree. Okay, I don't know how old you are, Chi, if you lived through that time. So here's the thing with cartridges. They looked enough like 8-track tapes, and there were still no CDs. There was cassette tapes. So people would interchange some of those terms before cartridge was very distinct. Definitely by the time you got to Nintendo, it was like, oh, those were Nintendo. Cartridge was already sort of embedded in our lexicon. But most of us that were really kind of geeky and nerdy, we definitely called them cartridges. But as far as like the general population or whatever, yeah, you would see some people that would use different kind of terms and things like that. Things weren't as like solid yet, so to speak. So Joker is just stopping in. Hey there, man. It's stop, say hello. Got errands and texts to make. No rest for the wicked. Am I right? Yeah. Hashtag keep talking. And by the way, hang on one second here, Joker, before you bail out on me. Representing, bro. So hashtag keep talking. So but yeah, thanks for coming in here. So anyway, so that's the cartridge thing. Like I said, I really did enjoy this element of it. Loki, talk a little bit about like how, I mean, you talk about a game message or a feel of like the Cold War aura is in this sequence. Like it's totally ripped out of the 80s Cold War.
Oh yeah, the beginning of this movie is straight out of the 80s Cold War. You've got two Russians smoking. Oh, do svidanya, comrade. Later. Ha ha ha. And they're off smoking. And then he comes parachuting down with this American flag parachute, knocks one of them out. Sleep darts another one, and then steals this case with a James Bond type watch. It's all Cold War era craziness in the beginning of this movie.
I don't know about you guys, but there's part of me that wanted more Jack Flack stuff doing that. I almost wish there was more of this. It was so much fun. Chris Persia is also going back on our cartridge tape conversation. Don't forget, back in the 80s, you could copy code to an audio tape and use the tape player, connect to your computer to play games, the Commodore era. Yeah, you had to really be on your game, Chris, to be able to do that kind of stuff. So, copier and Xerox, yes. Love that jacket. Oh, that jacket is 80. Look at all those pockets, baby. Look at all those pockets and zippers, man. Zippers. Yeah, zippers.
I'm not jealous.
No? Mm-hmm.
No, I'm not jealous of that. I don't need that jacket.
Dabney Coleman made me to be able to pull off the beret. Hey, you got to love a dude with a big giant stash. You could pull off the beret. It's freaking great. It's awesome. So then we move into like the video game nerd guy. And of course, like you said, Davey he's already like a superior gamer to the adult. But by the way, what a cool role for Will Forsythe. I don't know if you guys caught that. That's Will Forsythe.
Oh yeah,
all of that. I'm like, wow, that's a really cool role. Would not have pegged that on my list of Will Forsythe roles that from his resume. But yeah, he rocked it in this little role.
He's usually like a badass. He's almost always in whatever movie you see him. He's a badass, not a gamer nerd.
Yeah, he's usually like a villain or at least someone intimidating. So yeah. This was a great role. Definitely would not have been something I would have thought about. Really enjoyed seeing him in that. And when you don't, unless you really know William Forsythe, you don't really see it right away until you really kind of look at those eyes, man. Those eyes, boy. Ooh, yeah. Okay, Chief saying he wears a beret at work. Okay. Jack Flack's beret could be shaped better. Okay, cool. All right. Shark, a gray jacket, maybe. Where I think I get 2 more emojis with the incredible charitable donation of the members that we boosted. So the consensus is, and I didn't even have to do a poll. Sorry to say, Loki, the consensus is, by God, we must have a Loki Zardoz emoji. So that's what we'll that appears to be what's next. So and Daniel's here. Hey, brother. Hope you're doing all right, my friend. I remember being so excited to watch this as a kid. The premise was almost too good to be believed. Yeah, we were discussing like this era of video game movies. And I have to be honest, for me, let's see, this would be 83. I don't think we had the Atari yet. I think we just, because we couldn't afford one, just the Atari love and it was oozing off the screen in me. I was like all about it. Oh gosh, I loved it so much. So hey, Apollo Minion here. Go ahead.
Daniel mentions that premise. I've got something I want to throw by both of you. Not yet though. Not yet. Just remember, because this is gonna be a kind of a long explanation. But I've got something I want to float by both of you.
He's got to tease it.
Yeah, no problem. I'll take that as a teaser. Okay, Ironcaster, what happens next? Let's go a little bit, because he's done all of this nonsense. He's outplayed the game. You really get his obsession. And there's this little girl sidekick thing that's thrown in. She's fine. She's irrelevant in the grand scheme of things. And then basically she's just a damsel in distress for the later part of the movie. And I remember having a shirt that looked just like that. I remember getting the chance that we could finally get walkie-talkies, and that's what they look like. I mean, yeah, this was so great. This was so great.
Well, the next thing that comes up is he's sent out by the store owner to go and pick up something from one of the neighboring buildings to go and get some Twinkies.
Yeah, gotta get Twinkies. Twinkie mission. Hashtag Twinkie mission.
Yes. Top secret. Can't be seen.
And that's how he ends up into basically what looks like a bank building. So that one of the office buildings to have his first run in with what he thinks are real spies. So at this point, we're kind of like, what is with this kid? So, yeah. So Loki has this jacket.
It's right up there with the MechWarrior poster.
So, yes. I was about to say, who else remembers wearing collared shirts like that? Yeah, the mom made you wear.
Yeah.
Well, it started with Garanimals. Like I remember being like really young, and it was Garanimals. So you'd have that shirt, and then everything had a match, so they were different colors. So there'd be like a, an equivalent orange, brown, and a blue that would go with that shirt. And that's what you were expected to wear. So, talk about somebody else who'll know this movie and other stuff is Dean Krantz. I forgot about this film. This was a great reference. I'm glad Loki pulled this out. It's fun. Yeah, Dabney Coleman is a super spy. Yep. So
where is he?
Yes. Okay, so we move along and we definitely have this interaction in this office building. He sees a gun, which I also have to be honest, I'd be, as a kid, you're like, oh man, a real gun, and not just like a revolver or a shotgun or something that your family might shoot in the yard or somebody teach you how to shoot, things like that. Someone like carrying. So someone carrying in public would be like, definitely an eye turner for sure. So. Oh, greetings, programs. Derelict, grace in our presence. All right, brother. How you doing, man? Hope you're doing all right.
What is up? What is up, brother? Greetings.
And low spec Linux laptop, an appropriate visitor as well. Thank you so much for hanging with us, brother. Awesome. Chi, we were talking about that. It's just Will Forsythe just disappears. It's hard to believe that this is the dude, man. He's like this villain in all these movies and stuff, and you're like, he's this uber Atari nerd in this show. So,
I feel like we probably should at least address the other element of the premise that the character of Jack is sort of his imaginary friend, who he's always imagining being there to tell him how to be a spy. Like, what would Jack do in this situation?
Yeah, he's so obsessed with this video game and this Jack Flack character that he's sort of like, it's his imaginary buddy. It's his adventure fantasy that he lives out pretty much 24/7. He's obsessed with it. I love the scene, and it does go by fast, but I will say there's a little cutaway scene after this all kind of goes sideways, where the mom's telling the girl about it or whatever, and she's saying like, well, he's the only interesting boy. And I thought to myself, that's kind of funny. That's a good that's at least a good creative spin on why a little girl would have anything to do with him. So,
and her mom says, did I teach you that? And she's like,
yeah. I actually like that scene.
Of course, the daughter, of course, starts kind of pushing back a little bit, like, oh, what about the dad? Oh, well, he's single.
Yeah. Well, this was an era that was very interesting too, because we've lost the good dad in movies. We've lost, like, instead of showing like broken homes and things that are more real, because the 80s got into that hardcore. Like, this is totally like the latchkey kid era. You could see yourself on screen because many of us were in these situations with these broken homes. And in this situation, the mom has passed away. It's not a divorce situation, but this seems like something that's completely lost upon these current writers. Like, it's just a mess. So, and Chi is not hearing it, Ironcaster. We're not hearing that. So,
of course. Yeah. He's been there the whole time.
Yeah. And I will say this was a very appropriate response from parents in the 80s about video games and stuff like that. Like, it was bad enough that we would blow through money in an arcade, and they might be okay with doing like a little bit of like a pool hall type stuff, or maybe even pinball. But when it came to like video games and stuff like that, most adults, definitely someone of Dabney Coleman's age, would not have had any patience or tolerance of our video game love. That's for sure. All right, so the story moves a little bit here where basically you get that, right? He basically is at complete odds with his dad. He's got this story about these spies in this office building, his adventure, the cops being involved. He's in trouble. It's almost like pulling the fire alarm, when it's funny how like we didn't really get in trouble for that kind of stuff, but it's like your parents would just really come down on you hard if you were to ever get busted doing stuff like that. That authorities would be involved. Dean Krantz is saying that this is that era. Yeah, single dad films. Oh, yeah, tons. So this is definitely that era where they're trying to normalize women going back to work, women being single moms. It would be, blended family. So this is just that era where all of this stuff was kind of normalized, for sure. Like we just grew up with it. Like it was in all of pop culture. So she says it reminds me of Jumping Jack Flash with that guy from Infinity commercials. Okay.
Actually, what this did remind me of at the very start is the beginning itself of From Russia with Love, which is, I feel, obviously one of those kind of big spy things they're going for. But it was like so much of that I was watching thinking, oh, this is like the opening of, that movie.
That bad guy in that guy in Jumping Jack Flash he's talking about, that's in the Infinity commercials, also was the villain in Tomorrow Never Dies, James Bond.
Ooh.
Okay. Isn't Jumping Jack Flash? Doesn't that has Whoopi Goldberg in it?
Whoopi Goldberg, and he plays obviously Jack. He's Jack. He's the guy she's talking to on the computer.
Yeah, I don't know that I could do a rewatch with the Whoopi Goldberg film. It's a little. She's broken the suspension of disbelief for me. So, but I get where you're coming from, Steven. Thank you. The only value of $1 that I knew was how many arcade games I could play. Yeah, there was definitely a conversion rate that you were always working through. What kind of chores you could do? How many video game plays would this be? So.
I know the really good games always took more than one quarter.
Yeah, got to be honest too. We talked about it briefly on the other stream. Most games at this point were still a quarter, 1 token, until you got to Dragon's Lair. So Dragon's Lair, as far as I can remember, is probably my first 2 token game. Yeah, it came along a little bit later than this. Yeah, 50 cents. So that probably was closer to like 86, 87. Someone else Chris Bergeron's already got a thesis pulled up on me on whatever the timeline of stuff is, but I'm pretty sure the first one was, and nobody had it. It wasn't like in arcades yet when Dragon's Lair dropped. It was more in like a Showbiz Pizza type place where they were all about having like the latest, greatest. But not, but there were other places. I don't know. I can't remember the Star Wars game. Did it take 1 token or not?
It took 1 token. You're talking about the one that had the trench run and all that. Yeah, it took 1 token. So Dragon's Lair, that generation of arcade game was the very first time they had the board set up to where you could change things. So you could make it more difficult. You could make it to where you had less lives. You could make it to where, oh, hey, 1 run, that's all you get. Or you could get 2 runs, or you might get 3 runs and it might be harder. It all depended on what the owner wanted. So in that manual, there were switches on the board that you could turn on and off. And you could change things. You could change difficulty. You can change how much money it cost. That was the first generation of arcade games where you could pick and choose. Not just that game, but yeah.
Yeah, that was the biggest one that came first. I know that whole line. They put out several that were in that same sort of the same vein with the way the CD worked, the way the software worked in it, or whatever. So yeah. Dragons, yeah, I'm with you, Daniel. I blew a lot of money not learning fast enough. So, Time Crisis was my favorite 50-cent game.
Oh, that's
Atari Warriors ABBA, 25 cents wins the game. Cool. After Dragon's Lair, I remember requiring more tokens was Operation Wolf. Yeah,
the game with the Uzi machine gun.
Yeah, he had it. Cliffhanger Laserdisc game with Lupin 3. And Retract Space Hunter. Okay. All right. So yeah, I really enjoyed the journey in this film. I really enjoyed just the little caper that's kind of playing out. And like you said, Ironcaster, just the great way he has sort of like, he's got his little sidekick friend, but he's really just going on this journey with Jack Flack. So yeah, fun. You can move us along however you want.
Let's see.
Shootout in the car garage. I think it says after like the boat jumping and things like that, though, right? Like that was kind of fun the way because the kid does interact with this old couple, and they're kind of like super sweet to him and nice to him and stuff, and you're kind of like not quite sure exactly what their role in all this is going to be. And then this leads into like a parking garage, and he gets into this car where he hides in the trunk, which turns out to be where the dead body is. There's the old couple. I think they were married in real life too. Someone fact check if it was this couple or the other couple in the other scene. I don't remember which one's which, but one of those couples were actually married in real life. So
yeah, like I mean, the first about half the movie is ultimately like these two aren't really even part of it. It's just kind of the stuff with the three guys trying to get the cartridge. Is effectively the first half of the movie.
Yeah, this is the hostage moment with the cartridge. Davey has a cartridge, and there's some sort of microchip in it. Now, we see him cracking it, but Davey didn't get to see it. Go ahead, Loki.
If you look, okay, so everything on that counter in the game store is brand new, 30% off, but it's not. Homeboy that runs that store is repackaging used games and selling them like they're new. Because when they pull that game out, that right there, video game sale, 30% off, they're all wrapped up, they're all brand new, but each one of those has been labeled on the back by the store owner. Because when they pull that out later and he opens it up and the bad guy checks the back of it, it's got the label of the store on it. They didn't do that back then. So they didn't like ship out with the label of the store you bought it from the distributor. You'd have to do that yourself. So he's packaging up used games and selling them like they're new. So he's ripping people off. And they never really focus on that. But when he turns the cartridge over, it's got the label of the store on the back of the cartridge.
Yeah. That definitely was not a common thing at all. So there's our fact check. Dragon's Lair came out in June of '83, so it would have been in the theaters. Would have been in arcades about the same time this is dropping. 4 months later, Space Ace. Similar format, also 50 cents. Yeah, Space Ace.
We'll go for
it. Wasn't any better at Space Ace. Cliffhangers of Forgotten Gen, Lupin 3, Space Ace, loved it. Yep, Don Bluth. Yeah, forgot about Steve. Yeah, so it was also Legends. Yeah. I love the fact that too we had this. Oh, look at the set design, Ironcaster. When you watch this movie, what did you say you had seen this before?
I've seen parts of this. Like, I don't think I've seen the whole thing because when this scene was on, I was just staring at that back shelf with all those advanced Dungeons and Dragons modules, and I'm trying to like figure out which one it is.
Yeah,
but like I recognize the Star Frontiers down there.
Yeah, I figured this was going to be a set design smorgasbord for you, my brother. When I was rewatching this, there's so many shots, and like you said, Loki, there's all these little nuances and things like that you can kind of pick up on and like catch. And like, oh yeah, this takes me back. So yeah. The three guys that are chasing after Davey, they just run around with talk about cheesy looking pistols. Like they all have silencers on and just. It was so 80s spy cliche. And I really loved that. I know that's this one was kind of funny when he catches him and they're like face to face in the tunnel. I can just mow you down in like 3 seconds. It was like
it's like he stole this thing from Commando.
Yeah, turn you into hamburger kid.
It's got to be a prop from another movie. There's no way they made it for this. But yeah, it's definitely a toss off from some sort of adventure film of some kind. Yeah, I wonder if that's in one of the trivias somewhere. So, yeah, Steven's catching up to your D&D. Star Frontiers. Yep. Ironcaster knows his stuff, man. So as you watch this kind of like straight through before Ironcast, before we get to like this part of the story, what was your initial impression with the whole cat and mouse chase, imaginary friend, that kind of stuff?
Like I thought it was actually really neat because I'm kind of going between that and paying attention to how this is a ultimately just a big giant Atari commercial, and so I'm just kind of piecing all these things together, and I'm like they're actually really getting the pace going on this for the sake of the movie, and there's just so much plot kind of plot and things happening in this movie that really kind of keep you in it. It's like I can hardly believe it's like an hour and 40 minutes because it felt like the first half of this movie, like I was saying, is ultimately a movie all in and of itself.
Yeah, it came out like a double feature with Last Starfighter. Like this was literally them trying to promote gaming and video games and Atari and trying to figure out a way to kind of keep things moving. Oh, these guns. Oh my gosh. Look at the face this guy's making.
He looks, the guy on the right there, he looks like they took Will Ferrell and like AI generated him onto the body.
I didn't even look him up. I don't know what else he's been in. He seems like he's one of those, utility, bad guy thugs that's in several 80s movies, but I don't know his name, and nor could I place like a whole bunch of movies he's in. And then of course this guy, the other guy on the left, he almost has the Widow Peak. And I know Steve Ransom will throw me out the hashtag love my Widow Peak. So yeah, he kind of has it going, not quite.
Apparently that was Tim Rosevich, who
football
got drafted
player.
into the NFL. Yeah.
Yeah, the football player. Okay. Yeah, that's maybe that's why I know who he is, because he's from football. Okay. Yeah. He played defense, I think. So yeah, cool. Very cool. Okay, yeah. So it was interesting because I do think that as I was watching it, I forgot how much of the movie is that first hour setup. And you know what I mean? Like there's just a lot of that kind of stuff. And then when you get to the old couple and the bag switcheroo, that's when it kind of makes this big turn. I don't know, Loki. What were your thoughts on your rewatch from your childhood kind of thoughts to now, in some of this? Or
I'm going to save that if you are cool with that, because I've got a big explanation.
That's fine. I just want to make sure I'm not excluding you from all this.
You're not. It's going to be a long explanation, and I want to make sure that because I don't want to take anything away from either one of you either. So I will answer that. Just go ahead and let's finish talking about what happens. Yep. I think this is great, but and I'll explain because I think I'll say
okay. Sounds good. So as we move forward, and we cat and mouse catches up, old couple gets them. So now the movie completely changes everywhere from the car ride to the airport. Like everything moves, and they have another little subplot they kind of throw in with the little girl, and there's a bomb. And I will say the scene, Ironcaster, the scene in the tunnel when Jack Flack kind of like starts tricking him into doing the crossfire maneuver so that the bad guys will shoot each other. It's really dark and edgy. Like I have to be honest, I don't remember that. I did not remember that scene. And I was really like, that's pretty edgy. I like that. That's really good. It's still very safe for kids. They don't do anything that's overblown, but it's enough to be tragic and intense, right? I also think that it was kind of, from a subtext point, pops his brain. Once the nerd dude is dead in a trunk, it'd be pretty easy to call your dad and convince him that this is real. Whenever the nerd dude is dead, he's not around anymore. Where is he then, Dad? That kind of thing. But it's okay. We had to have some contrivances to get us to this point. So Ironcaster, let's wrap up with your thoughts on how the last act worked for you before we get to that, obviously that final scene with the dad.
All right. So it's the second half where we kind of change things around, and we reveal that the older couple that had been there before are ultimately the handoffs that were supposed to be the ones picking up the cartridge.
Yep.
Oh, let me try to. I can't even zoom in on here.
You're fine.
Oh, well, this is the best I can do.
They're the masterminds.
Yep. And so everyone winds up at the airport here, where you wind up with them ultimately taking Davey hostage and bringing him aboard the airplane, as they're like, "We're not going to get out. Give us a pilot. We're getting out of here."
And of course, Davey's dad is a pilot, so there's a contrivance there that works pretty well.
Oh yeah. I think it absolutely works because it ties everything back together to back around to the like start of the movie, or it connects in his own family drama with his father being this pilot he's like he's always busy with work. I don't have time to I don't have all the time to spend with the kid. And his son just like, Dad, I just want you to like play a game with me.
Mm-hmm. That's the best moment in the first part of the movie where he's, look, Dad, we just have to do this and we'll get to the trick or whatever. And the kid's like doing all the sound effects, and the dad is growing like increasingly impatient. But reality, that's the kid just trying to say, please just play with me, just spend time with me. So at the end, when the dad is going to put himself in harm's way for his kid, it's like that the dad actually has a journey, actually has a story arc that we get. And of course, when he comes out of all the fiery blaze at the end, it's so freaking great. So freaking great. It's so insane. Dean Krantz is talking about 80s, 90s guns and how things were done. Yeah, pretty bad. Hey, Mike, Comic Relief Crusaders here. Hey, brother. Hope you're doing good, man. Things are going all right. It's good to see you, man. Andy from across the pond. Hey, ZBR. Good to see you, man. Thanks for hanging out. Let's see. I only remember this being a letdown as a kid with some cool bits. Oh, okay. Let's see. Not sure which figure Davey carries around Jack Flack comes from. I don't know either. Hopefully you guys would know, but I do like the fact that there's sort of like a metaphor of maturity there with the idea of he has this little figure and it's part of his imagination and his little sidekick. And then it's like, he sort of like abandons that. It actually kind of gets a little bit edgy, a little bit darker there for kids. Like, there are points where you're going to have to grow up, kids. You got to have to handle reality. You have to handle some of the stuff that comes with this. So I like this film. I thought it was really fun. It was fun to do a little rewatch of, that's for sure.
Ooh, I think it might have been, I think the figure might have come from Top Secret because that was a spy RPG in the 80s.
Okay. I assume it's one of the things that someone can look up and will tell us, I'm sure, in 2 seconds because the chat is way faster than me. Any other final thoughts, Ironcaster, before Loki will give his opinion and then we can kind of counter him?
See, I think that it's ultimately it's kind of a nice return to that sort of older style of movie where I feel like looking back on it from the modern days, it's the kind of movie I wish Hollywood would get back to making because everything now has to subvert things. And it was just kind of refreshing to see this story about like ultimately a father and son ultimately bonding.
Yeah, they're kind of trapped with the remake of something like this because this is a derivative, right? So there's a famous the famous story is like The Boy Who Cried Murder, right? I don't know if that's what that film was called or the book, but
yes,
it's definitely okay. So it's definitely a premise, right? It's like the boy who cries wolf, the boy who cried murder, and they don't want to do a male centric version, right? And then they don't want to do a girl version because it makes them too emotional. It makes them look, so no matter how they want to spin it, this is kind of a trap for them by modern sensibilities. So, Daryl's also throwing out Ironcaster, telling me that it could come from Contra. I don't know if you know enough about Contra to know if that was the one or not. The relationship's family oriented. I remember when I would see my dad when I was that age, asking him to play catch, go fishing, work with the bees, anything you could do. Dads were busy back then. Yeah, I'm with you, Steven. Yeah, we all kind of feel the same. I didn't have my dad. It was my grandfather. And the best time ever was when he would just play ball with me. We just play basketball. So I'm from Indiana. So yeah, when you were like, there was organized basketball leagues in the 70s for third graders. It was crazy. The only time that he would actually play with me, it was like such a big deal. So I get it. So Ironcaster, any other thoughts before we throw it to Loki and let him explain to us some of his thoughts?
Well, I'd say ultimately it was a movie I had never really thought of looking back on, but I'm glad I came back to watch it. So thanks for the recommendation, Loki.
Okay.
In chat, while Loki's talking about his thoughts and that kind of thing, throw out maybe like your idea of a score on a 10-point scale, like kind of where you would place a movie like this, because it's definitely an odder film it's a little more challenging to rank because obviously certain things are very dated, and those tend to get I think, some unfair negative criticism sometimes. So I'm just curious what you guys in chat think. So, all right, Loki, my friend, you're haven't watched it since you were a kid. Now you've rewatched it. Let's hear what you got to say.
All right. So when I was a kid, obviously this was like an action adventure movie for a kid. They're playing spy and these people are coming after him and this kid's involved in all this stuff and absolutely crazy. As an adult, there are things you pick up, especially if you've ever worked in healthcare. Number one, his mother died a year before this. So his mother's been dead a year. His father had him seen a psychiatrist, which is brought up in the movie again, that he had seen a psychiatrist previously. Something had happened, some event happened that is never explained, and his father wants to take him back to see the psychiatrist after the incident in the building up on floor 7. No one can beat Jack Flack. No one. And anytime he is playing with Jack Flack, no one can beat him. Whether it's a game, no matter what he's doing, what happened, he is the very best and he does not lose. And like his friend in the store says, nobody can ever beat you. Nobody can ever hurt you. As long as you're playing as this character, nothing bad's ever going to happen to you. I believe, and I'm going to read you a definition here from the CAMH, which is the Center for Addiction and Mental Health. Give me 1 second. Let me pull this back up. A definition here really quick. Psychosis affects the way a person thinks, feels, and behaves. The experience of psychosis varies greatly from person to person. Psychosis can come on suddenly or can develop gradually. The symptoms are delusions, false beliefs that are family held and are out of keeping with a person's culture, hallucinations, hearing, seeing, tasting, smelling, or feeling something that is not actually there, disorganized speech, restricted emotional and facial expressions. There's physical attributes, cognitive symptoms, difficulties with attention, concentration, memory, mood changes, changes to thoughts and behavior. This can have an onset in your early teens. And his mother, we have no idea what happened to his mother. We have no idea why his mother died. We just know she did. And it's been a year since that happened. This entire experience could be in his head. The cop who says there was no evidence of any body, there was no evidence of anything there. It's gradually happening because of the store in the beginning of the movie, after the Jack Flack clip, his friends tell him no one can ever beat you. As long as you're Jack Flack, you're unstoppable. You're unbeatable. No one can ever touch you. Those are things that he could be creating in his head. As long as I'm this person, as long as I'm doing this, nothing can hurt me. There are key words and key phrases that are going on during this movie that make me honestly believe none of this happened. Or at least very little. Some of the conversations he had with his dad, he's seen, and as a kid, you see all kinds of shit. I remember seeing an imaginary friend. I had a stegosaurus in my backyard. I remember that. I was a little kid. I remember seeing that, a little stegosaurus in my backyard. But he's a lot older than I was when I was doing that. And he sees him, he talks to him, he interacts with him. And not just that, but Jack interacts with other people, and sometimes they key in on that. Like you said, the crossfire bit, when he pulls the attention away. Now, those are things are explained away like, oh, well, he only turned and shoot at the wall because Davey said something. Is that true, though? Or is it what he saw and he made happen because all of this is happening in his head? He was never chased by anybody. He ran away. The little girl's trying to help him because the little girl likes him. How much of this is real and how much of this isn't happening? Watch it again. If you haven't watched this movie in years and decades since you were a kid, watch this movie again and ask yourself, is this actually happening? Or is this a kid who has lost his mom a year ago and you have no idea why? Because it could be hereditary. This could be something that his mom passed on to him. A lot of times psychological issues are. Is this something he inherited and it's kicked in because his mother perhaps did something to herself and his mother's not there? Or it's just a kid whose father has not had the time to interact with him and he's created an alternate reality because he lost his mom and suddenly he feels abandoned. There's a lot of things that could be going on in this movie that you got to catch now compared to when you were a kid. That's my theory anyway.
Go ahead, Eric.
I mean, to kind of build off that, Jack Flack is effectively acting like a surrogate father for him also there, where he's giving him all the advice. I mean, you see it right at the end where you see like you, the audience, are led to believe it's like, oh, it looks like Jack is walking out of the flames only for it to be his father.
Yes. Yeah, he's even wearing the beret for a minute until it cuts back and he's not, and it's his dad. Yeah.
So obviously, I'm not disagreeing at all with the paranoid schizophrenia that the kid's suffering from. I guess the question is because of the way it ends, like you don't really know to what degree the fantasy has played out. Is it all fiction? Or is it he somehow got people, he didn't really kill people, or maybe he did. You know, you really don't know the level of degree that Davey took something. And, you know, it is a really interesting film from that angle. I really felt that a lot, especially once I got to the airport. Like, wait a minute, hold on a minute. Because once they were shooting each other in the tunnel and all that kind of stuff, like I said, it gets kind of dark and edgy there where you're like, holy cow. And then, of course, he does the, you know, throw the little, you know, figurine aside to basically, you know, try to grow up kind of thing or something like that. So,
and his friend in the trunk. Was his friend really in the trunk, or was that his imagination? Because that's all you have to do is show the body to someone and then poof, the gig's up. All I had to do was make a scene and get people's attention and see that body, and the whole show's over. Nobody else sees that body.
Yeah. It was interesting. And a lot of folks here talking about, you know, the absent dad thing of having to work that time and stuff like that. So, and Steve is talking about just the fascinating frame. Yeah, it is a very interesting dynamic. Daryl says, could we go back to Davey's way to let Jack go and connect with his father? Yeah, it could be. Kids Total Recall. Cool insight.
Thank you.
It's time for him to stop playing games and try to, you know, as much as I wish my make-believe dad was here, I wish my actual dad was here.
Yeah.
And he has a line about, you know, mom would have believed me, like mom would have played along, right? And it's almost like, you know, it's time for you to grow up. And it's like, did he had to have one more adventure and then he kind of let go? But it is definitely almost like Fight Club, right? The fictional person, like where's the line between reality and fiction? It's like we the audience don't really get all of that answered. So that is interesting.
Well, you had that same thing with Sebastian in the Never-Ending Story. His mother had passed away and his father was raising him. And he's like, it's time to grow up and it's time to be a man and it's time to take responsibility. And you got to stop having your head in these books. And he goes on an adventure. He leaves, he checks out, he goes up in that attic and he mentally checks out and goes on an adventure.
So, and I know I'm a little bit older than you guys. So you guys in chat will definitely hear the same thing too, right? So this is the biggest problem with the latchkey era. That's kind of what you were told. You know, you'd be 10 to 14 years old and, you know, there were kids, you know, you'd get scared home alone. You know, you'd hear things, you know, and it was like, well, you didn't do your chores. You didn't, you know, all I ask for you is to do all these adult chores because I have to work. It's like, you know, single family homes, you know, like you guys were saying in chat, you know, dad's working 80 hours, you know, buck up camper, be a man, these kinds of things. So movies like this really dealt with these in different ways, which I think is interesting. And definitely in hindsight, as we rewatched it, it's like the idea of he goes on one last adventure with Jack Flack and then just sets it aside. Like that's it. Now he'll move forward with his actual dad. I don't know. Interesting. Or is he just as deranged as he was before? So, oh boy, Loki Flack.
Ah,
I knew it wouldn't take long.
Brilliant. Absolutely brilliant.
Yes. Who did that?
Chris Persia dropped that in our private chat.
Brilliant, Chris. Absolutely
beautiful.
brilliant.
Thank you.
Yes. Chris is saying, I'm waiting for Loki to bring up Never Ending Story. Yeah. Talk about an underrated gem. Pops Magic was more than a pothead tune. Some of us kids saw it as a thing to live up to. Yeah. I get scared about a person being in the basement when I was in the household. Yeah. If you had a basement and you had like, there were, depending on the house, like my grandparents' house had this like, what do they call the snow room, the boot room? There's a term for it, guys. When you're up north.
Breezeway?
Kind of. They had this like metal storm door that would blow open and start slamming around back there. He's like, but when you're on the other side of the house, you just hear noise. And it was like, oh, it always just got me. So, yeah.
So the first girl I ever kissed, I was 12, and I had a neighbor that lived next door, and she was 15 years old. She was older than us. And I never was always like, why don't you all go off and dim that, right? But she ran over, my parents weren't home. She ran over to my house one evening and was banging on the door, and I answered the door, and she's like, someone's in my house and I'm all alone. And I grab my baseball bat, I go over there, I walk through the house with her, and you hear like a creak, and she goes, oh my God. And I'm like, it's the wind. Your house is creaking, houses shift and move.
Mm-hmm.
And after I walked through the house with her twice, I'm getting ready to leave, and she turns me around and kisses me, and she's like, thank you. And I'm like, oh my God. All right. Okay.
Loki, you're my hero.
Yeah. Loki, you're my hero. And she was a cool chick too. She was a preacher's daughter. She was a cool chick too. She was one of like the cool chicks on the block. So it was like,
PKs
holy crap.
Always trouble, baby.
And I
kept
PKs
are trouble.
I kept that to myself too. I didn't tell anybody then. I could have, because she was a hottie, and I'd have been like, yeah, guess what? I kissed Misty. Oh yeah, hell yeah. But I didn't. I kept it to myself.
That's so funny.
Don't kiss and tell.
Yeah, we have a Loki is everywhere file. Yeah. Because we've said that we should do a super cut. We should do a super cut for the Loki TV show of what actually had happened. And yeah, so
it's not
by the way,
Mr. Mischief.
Yeah, Mr. Mischief, yes, as a spy, yeah. So still cannot figure out where that freaking Jack Flag originally. Yeah, so there's a couple theories. But there's a collector's DVD that came with a 1-inch Jack Flag figure. Cool.
He had tanks and figures. So he had pewter figures by his game system, by his Atari at home. He had little tanks, and you see him sitting there playing with them. He's like, and those are his little pewter soldier figures. He's one of those. He's one of his little pewter soldier figures. So he created that whole thing to have a best friend and get over his mom.
It is a lot to think about too, because like I said, because it's so unresolved, there's no way. First off, there's no denying there's some sort of paranoid schizophrenia going on. He's hallucinating a little guy going around with him. So, obviously that's the undeniable part. The part that gets interesting is, well, where is reality beginning and ending, and where do we leave it when it's over? Does he he snaps out of it and now he's going to be a big kid now? Does he continue to hallucinate? It really is an interesting thing. So yeah, I definitely don't want modern Hollywood to touch it.
I don't know if you noticed or not, the Invisible Bomber is an SR-71 Blackbird. And that was like the big plane in the 80s. That was the big dog in the 80s. Every kid wanted to have something to do with the SR-71, the Blackbird. And that's the plane on the game. That's the secret plane in the game.
I was watching Think About It X-Men.
Yeah, well, that's where the X-Men jet comes from. It's the SR-71 Blackbird. Yeah.
Very, very interesting. Really is an interesting. I don't know. It's really now. It's a lot. It feels a lot heavier now because like you said, watching it as an adult, it felt like a lot heavier of a film than it did. Obviously, as a kid, it's like this just like fun little adventure thing, and maybe that's the beauty of a film like this because it is sort of like nuanced in two different directions. Like it can still be an innocent, fun little adventure spy film that could be safe for kids. But then it also can be a somewhat awkward and uncomfortable conversation about dealing with loss and dealing with mental illness and a kid that can get stuck in his grief. So Princess Leia Rose pops in. Hey there, lady. Hope you're doing all right. Let's see. Oh, another image has come our way. Oh, it's in my DMs. I'll see. Oh boy, Steven, you can't DM me. I'm having the tech issues, so you guys will have to talk for. I hop over to Twitter and see if I can figure this out.
So my DM's usually open, so if you want to go ahead and send me anything, I can pull it up.
Pops
Chris
will be back after these short commercial messages. After
these messages.
Be right back. Oh my God. So what did you think? I mean, you said that you might have seen some of this here and there. I mean, I used to watch this all the time. So the fact that I never thought about it later, I don't know. It's just weird. I thought about this. I brought this up because, like I said, it's one of the computer movies. It's a game movie from the 80s. And these were so much better than the video game movies we got later. It's just I never expected to go, man, he's displaying all these signs of psychosis, and could any of this even be real? I don't think it is. I think even the beginning of the movie where he's at the store, and because the owner's like, Jack Flack always wins. You never lose with him. You can never hurt him. That's his own delusion of as long as I have him with me, nothing can hurt me. I've retreated into this safe space where I'm always going to be with Jack Flack, and he's always going to protect me. Then until he doesn't, I want one.
I want one. I mean, the only thing is it's not quite the right pose, but I can easily see this line of models and something from that being exactly what was used. Just slap a new coat of paint on something, kind of change up the color of the jacket. No one usually noticed the fact that there was a little bow tie painted over.
Yeah, I don't know. It's really cool though. I'm glad Steven was able to find this quickly. It definitely gives a lot to talk about in that sort of era too, where they would just refashion something than they would make something from scratch. And I'm glad that it's lived on with a release where they did it with a figure and they did some cool things with it, because that's really good to see. So, okay, hold on. What's Daryl talking about? Did I miss something about a horse getting squished?
I'm not sure.
Okay.
I don't know.
Look,
I have no idea.
This is the Wizard of Oz here.
Here we go.
Are you talking about the Never Ending Story when it sinks Artax?
Oh,
Atreyu. Okay. Yeah, the bog.
Atreyu and Artax. Yeah, the bog. The bog of
They had to build a little elevator system so they can make the horse go down into the. Yeah, pretty awesome stuff. So. No, it's been fun. Look, I really am grateful and happy that you chose something that was like this, because it definitely is. It was a fun little rewatch. I did have nostalgia moments. Definitely had nostalgia stuff, and then like yourself, definitely had a problem, or at least a little crisis of conscience of like, what is the message at the end of this movie? Like, it's like this interesting movie for an hour or so. Then there's this last 30 minutes where it kind of gets really, really dark and edgy. And you're like, are they really dead? Because you could just call Dad and say, listen, there's a body in this trunk, Dad. And I mean, there literally was a car there was literally a phone in the front seat in the one car. It's like, you could just call, like, it's no big deal. So yeah, interesting. So Cheese saying that Blu-ray with the pewter Jack Flack came out last year. So if anybody wants to get a copy of that, so there you go. So
Oh, the horse squish on after these messages. We'll be right back.
Oh, because they did a bunch of those. Like one was like a fire hydrant.
Daniel, look at that. He's calling.
Yeah. Ruining
Oh,
magic.
sorry. Yeah.
It's all your fault.
It is. Well, won't be the first or last time that happens. So awesome. And by the way, speaking of commercials, for those of you who did not catch it, I definitely added some commercials this last week for the X-Men and Batman animated series Pop Spective rewatches. So we added some commercials at the end of each one. Just a little bit of this from the 70s to get a little flavor of what happens in Pop's head when I'm having my Saturday morning cartoon fix. So yeah, we did that. So I'm trying to do that more often as I have time to cut some commercials and throw them in at the end. It can be a little time consuming because some of them, if they have any music at all, I have to run them through the YouTube process to make sure they don't get copyright flagged. And then I do have to sometimes cut them up a little bit so they don't run too long. Then you run into that as well. And Loki did an entire show over the last couple of days about how copyright flags and reused content can bite you in the behind. He and I've talked offline about this tremendously. How I don't let anything sit. Because trust me, I did that wrong years ago. I'm not going through that nightmare again.
So, because of the recent stuff that's going on, I went back and I looked, and there's a couple of things that I've got to take care of. One of those things, we covered the DC fandom event.
Yeah.
In 2020, I have 80 claims on that one video. 80, not 18, not 8. That is an 8 and a 0. 80 claims on that one stream because we streamed for 12 hours.
Yeah. Yeah, I go back and I try to filter probably about once a month or so and see if I've missed something because they'll have claims after the fact, folks. I don't know which. Well, there was a video that I did was anyway. It had like music playing in the background. And it's one of them have been used before, so it's not like they claim like every single video either. It'll just be like some random one will get claimed. And I've said it. Loki and I know that. So the trick is, folks, don't make a knee-jerk thing and delete the whole video and start from scratch. And look, just start.
Well, it'll never go away. It'll never go away if you delete
just start trimming it.
Yeah, mute it. If it's a song, mute it. Mute it if it's a song. Trim it if it's in the video.
Yeah.
But yeah, don't ever delete it because then you can't fix it and it still counts against you.
Yeah, don't even bother delete. It's just you're just shooting yourself in the foot. You're better off muting the song. Just biting the bullet if it doesn't matter. Like if you're watching a video and it doesn't matter if you lose it, you can mute the song. But you can just start trimming it. Just start cut like Ironcaster and I when we did Blazing Saddles. 2 seconds here, 2 seconds there, and eventually it went through fine. No issues. So you just gotta wait. Go through the process. So, but yeah, cool.
Well, I do have one last thing I just kind of found I can show off.
Hold on one second. What is Steven? Are you talking about the opening credits for this, the Wolverine thing with Loki? That's probably what he's talking about. Yeah, that's one of my favorites. That's one of my favorites. The only issue is I wish I had different facial expressions of Loki so I could change the face. But when I made that one, it was pretty early in the process, so it's not quite as dynamic. I've learned a little bit more about how to do it than I did back then. So. Go ahead, Ironcaster. What are we going to get into now? We got time.
Okay, so I was looking up that trying to find that Blu-ray, and instead I wound up finding the 4K version from Vinegar Syndrome, and I got to show this off because I kind of want this now. Which we start with that poster from before.
Mm-hmm.
That's like really neat looking cover, kind of stylized like an 80s Do I have this here? Yeah, there we go. Kind of stylized based on like sort of those 80s video game marquees.
Man, he looks
Or
like
the
Short
Curtis
Round. He doesn't look like Henry. He doesn't look like Henry Thomas at all. He looks like freaking Short Round. His hair is different colors. Oh, jeez, that's so funny.
That's
cool art.
The back is also really neat here because it's
Oh man, look, Will Forsythe made the back.
Yeah.
Look at the
Also,
D&D die.
our two goons from before, the airplane, the Atari controller, the dice from the start.
Yeah. Okay, keep going. I like this.
You start opening this up and you actually get like this apparently this is a documentary about some of the there's some details down here where I believe this is a documentary they added in addition. But all of this is a giant, actually this is such a case with multiple discs inside of it.
Very cool. Interesting. Yeah, that definitely is like a down the rabbit hole sort of collector item too, man. That's pretty awesome.
Let me pull this up. It began as just another harmless game he played many times. Then top secret documents fell into his hands, and real bullets started flying. Now he's getting pursued by deadly enemies. And they're not playing around, but no one else will believe his incredible story. In Face, there's only one person left that can save him, a legendary agent named Flack. And time is running out.
IRONCASTER doing that sounds like a bad version of the old Dragnet voiceovers.
Apparently, go and kind of go over this with a little bit of spelling corrects because I didn't say those wrong. I was reading it as written.
You did just fine.
But yeah, this is just kind of a cool, neat little collection of.
Okay, IRONCASTER, this is what we need to get you to say. The names have been changed to protect the innocent. For example, Martin Blake is now called Sylvia Wisp. There you go.
The names have been changed to protect their identities. Martin Short has been changed to Sylvia Fanatide.
Sylvia Fanatide.
I'm like, I couldn't remember the exact thing. Like, I'll just make some names up.
I got you. Sylvia Wisp. I love Sylvia Wisp.
Oh, yeah. Do these look like the breasts of a 38-year-old woman? No, they do not, ma'am. They definitely do not.
Oh, it's such a good one. So, I'm just clicking on that comic share the movie and I've forgotten movie talk card. Daryl, that movie. Which one? I missed what he was trying to say. Okay, must have been Never Ending Story, maybe. We'll see. We'll get to it. Mike, hey brother. Pacific 414 is here. Hey there, brother. Yeah, Daryl's headed over to do Vac Tube. So yeah, he'll be rocking and rolling here in a few minutes, doing the Vac Tube, hanging out with that. So yeah, very cool. Well, next week we are going to dive into really. I can't wait to really kind of get into this because this movie's legacy is probably bigger than the film itself. Like, I was so blown away because I went to go see 300 in the theater opening day while I was being paid on vacation. It's like a business job. I was like a business trip, and it opened, and I was like, "Oh, okay, cool." And well, yeah, I'll go with you guys to see it. But I was the only one that even read comic books. Had I do Frank Miller was. Everyone else was like, "Yeah, it's pretty cool. That's a lot of fun." I was like blown away. Like, holy cow, I cannot believe this movie. So I'm very excited about that. Why I chose that, or why I think I proposed that, was because this was one of those movies that really broke the mold of finding financial success in March. Because those of you who don't know the history of Hollywood well, January, February is kind of the dumping ground because all they care about is how to get themselves to the Oscars. So films usually didn't get any backing. They didn't get any real support. People didn't come out. But 300 was kind of a mold breaker. Like, holy crap, we can make money in March. And yeah, and you guys have seen Stone Loki shows, so you understand the legacy of the Spartans and 300, and I think it'll be a lot of fun. I'm looking forward to seeing it. I haven't watched it in probably about a few months. I think I watched it. It's probably in the fall. Watched it in the fall. We were doing the show, so I know it was last year. I just don't remember when, but I watched it with my son before he left. See, the 14th we'll be doing a one year retrospective with Pops. The Pops channel of like, you know, serious stuff for Pops for 1 year, March 14th, and then yeah, we're having a good time. So lots of fun stuff in March before we get to it.
Well, you know, it's been a year since we got into the Halo stuff. So maybe now that some time is settled, it's actually become an improved show.
Halo.
Did you watch the same show I watched? Oh, well, of course you did, because we were reviewing it together. Damn it, IRONCASTER.
Is there a Strawberry Spartan spinoff? Because I'd be interested in doing that. I would really
Strawberry Spartan 17, but she's not really 17.
I know that Steven's trying to turn me on to like AI creation. Like you can just play with AI enough, it'll just start making the animation and stuff for you. And I was like, yeah, we could do a Strawberry Spartan because that would be way more entertaining. She was way more entertaining as like this naive. Because her first impulse when she has her consciousness is to color her hair badly. It's just the best. It's the best. It's like a 9-year-old. It's great.
Well, we had to check the box. Someone had to have dyed hair. Well,
it's true. It's true.
Someone had to have an unnatural color dyed hair.
Yeah, we're counting autumn sunrise. That's a different problem altogether. So yeah. Pacific 414, he said he saw 300, but he had to pay. That's okay. No, I understand. Yeah. So let's see. Okay, I don't know. Barrett Oliver was the boy. What are we? Okay. All right. So, all right. Loki, what is tomorrow's Wednesday. Tomorrow's comic book day. So comic book roundtable?
Comic book roundtable with 24/7 and clobbering times. I do not know if anybody else will be there, but that's the plan.
All right. I may try to crash that party because I don't think I have anything planned tomorrow.
All right. Love to have you.
Yeah. So comic book day tomorrow. And then Thursdays with Adega.
Yep. Thursday with Adega.
Friday
We've got Bat Steven Seagal, that garbage truck driving son of a gun, is going to be on tomorrow for YouTube Talk.
Okay, awesome. Okay, Chris Persia is explaining that Daryl, actually the movie Daryl, would be a fun 85 Daryl.
Yes, because he steals an SR-71 Blackbird. So yeah.
Okay. I will just make a general note. That's not one that I have high on my list of things to want to get to, but hey, it's okay. We do allow for some other votes around here, so maybe it just gets thrown there. So we'll see. Okay, so yeah, busy slate for this guy. He's got his morning show, of course, which is rocking and rolling and hitting the hard topics face on, which I'm always loving it and love our friendship because it's all birthed out of the same sort of motivations of walking up to it and poking it right in the freaking eye, telling them what they can do with themselves.
Damn straight.
So, yeah. IRONCASTER, my brother, what's going on with you, my friend?
Oh, it's Thursdays. I would be doing some talk about some Kamen Rider, but it's getting a little difficult to handle some of that here. But I am in other places throughout the week. So, for example, on Fridays, I'll be on 32 Flavors of Nick Weisers for another comic stream altogether. And we're getting into this week our part 2 of the Dave Stevens Rocketeer, where we finished the original 4-part miniseries. Now we're getting into the couple of the extra little side stories where we meet some of the other iconic pulp heroes. And then hopefully this week we'll be able to do on Saturdays, The Week in Geek, where we're not talking about Wizards of the Coast for once, because it has been a long... It has been about 4 or 5 months of just having to cover them and them keep shoving feet in their mouth.
Okay. All right. That sounds good. Well, comic book day tomorrow. So 10:15 a.m. after Loki show. the premiere of Comic Talk with Pops, and we'll have on Wakazashi's Tea House. He's got tons of things that he enjoys, whether they be old or new. He does have new comics from time to time that he recommends. He recommended one that I enjoyed so much. I've already done a review on it. So that drops tomorrow. And I actually got around to publishing my review on, I'm trying to check my notes to make sure it's tomorrow. I believe it is. Anyway, it's called Isolation. It's sort of an ISOM type project. It's a YouTuber. He's really into like the higher end investing and grading comic book world. His name is called Reggie Collects, and he's done some publishing. He published this comic book. Instead of doing like the graphic novel approach and that type of Kickstarter thing, they went with more like the $6.99 floppy route. So they're actually doing, you can still get issues number 1 and 2. And then you also can pre-order and get in on the Kickstarter part for issue number 3. What's cool about Isolation, or what drew me to it, was that he did like all sorts of variant covers, but he did a very specific number of variant covers. So he only would do like, so the Death Dealer version looking one of like a tribute to Frazetta of issue number 1, there's only like 50 of them. So things like that. So I thought that was a very interesting take on the independent creator of, not just throwing, caution to the wind, coming up with a very strategic business plan that they could handle and move forward. So I do my review on that a little bit, see if that's something you'd be interested in. So yeah, tons of stuff coming. We got a lot of cool stuff going on. This is a very blessed to have all you folks in chat. Amazing folks out there. It's so great. And definitely check out everybody else's channel. Make sure you're still subbed. Make sure you're still participating in everyone's interaction, that kind of thing. I know I probably missed a few people coming in and going. Appreciate you guys so much, all of you members that are out there. What a great member stream we had last week. A fun time hanging out, and look forward to doing that again in a couple weeks. March will be a fun time for me, guys. I could take a little vacation time with the littles, so I'm looking forward to my March. Yeah, they get spring break. I get them. So have fun time with my littles. Yeah, little man. He's 2 years old. He knows all the superheroes, right? He's on my shirts. And then he came and he came running over because he thought I had to go to work, because they mentioned me going to work, and he said, "Oh, Pops, you're still here." And I got the big old hug and that kind of thing. I'm like, see, that's the way you get yourself jacked up to keep going out in the world and deal with any of the negativity. You're like, none of this crap matters. None of this crap really matters, man. So anyway, listen, you guys, appreciate you so much for hanging out, man. It's always great. Loki, again, thank you again for the recommend. It's been fun.
Oh yeah.
Ironcaster brother, love you, man. It's been freaking great to do this stuff with you guys. Chris Bergia, rocking the mod roll. Appreciate you so much, brother. Thank you for putting Loki's face on something else, because that always makes me laugh and smile. In chat, you guys are fire, man. Look at the fire. Matt, I kind of needed help in here, dropping the ash, dropping talk cards. I love it. Throw those emojis around like bosses. Appreciate you guys. You're freaking great. So listen, guys, make tomorrow better than today. Be blessed. Go out there and talk hard, have some fun. So I'm going to try to play Bob, and we'll see if my computer will play nice. So take care, folks. I'll talk to you guys soon.
I'm Ross. All I do is chill. My life is a thrill, for real, Bob Ross. I be too calm for the drama. You don't wanna cause a problem, I'll solve it, Bob Ross.